Kick off? Beautiful.
Let's roll.
Oh, geez, hang on.
Cheers, mate.
Lucky you got long arms. Good evening and welcome to the Joust. My name is Nagy. I'm here as always with my co-host Liam McNeil, but Joust is another special guest for you this week. This man is a comedian, YouTube sensation, fresh coming off the back of his sold-out national tour, and just about to debut his debut comedy special. Please welcome the Buttsman, Isaac Butterfield. Welcome to the show, mate.
Wow, it's great to be back. My God.
Thank you for coming
This
back.
is beautiful. My absolute pleasure.
We don't often get return guests, so it feels nice, you know,
Why not?
every once in a while. Well,
It's a great time.
probably our horrible interviewing skills, I think.
That'd be it. That'd definitely be it.
There's definitely a factor involved. Now, you came on the show about a year ago. A lot's happened for you in that year. Can you fill us in on the last 12 months?
The last 12 months has sort of been like a whirlwind because this time when we spoke last year, I was probably sitting around, and I make YouTube videos,
Yeah.
stand-up comedy on the weekends, and I think I was probably sitting around maybe 200,000 subscribers.
Yes. Yeah.
And now I'm at nearly 900,000. So it's certainly been a growth period.
It's definitely a
say
similar
the least.
It's a similar rise to this show actually.
Yeah.
From about 200 to 900 people.
Yes.
That's it.
It's beautiful. And it's great. But,
They're all just zeros. Any way you look at it, they're just zeros.
That's it. That's it.
So this time last year, I was planning an Australian tour, which only consisted of about 9 shows, and then it ended up blowing out to nearly 60, and everyone sold out. So it's been a very interesting 12 months, and I mean, you know, I've done a lot of other things in between that. I recorded a comedy special. I wrote a new hour, performed that at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. Did that for the first time. Did the Perth Fringe, the Adelaide Fringe, and as I said, toured the country. And it's been amazing. I've loved every second of it. It's changed my life, obviously, quite a bit from just hanging out in Dudley and going to the footy on the weekends and being friends with those type of people. I don't see anyone anymore because I'm away every single weekend, you know, and it's fine. It's part of the job, and I accept that. But it's been amazing. I've absolutely loved it. The ruffles, the rustles, the waves I've caused in the comedy community across Australia have been awesome too. I've met a lot of great people. I've met a lot of awesome people and some people who absolutely love me and conversely a lot of people that absolutely despise me. And that's fine as well.
How's that been? You say you spend a lot of time indoors, and how is it like as your image and your the waves that you're making grow? Stepping out even to places, down at the shop, walking the dog and things like that. Is it more like, more friendly waves or more people that want to take you up on that one thing that you said, 6 months ago?
I've had only probably 2 or 3 examples of people trying to fight me.
Yeah.
Only, that's not too bad, 2 or 3.
One was a vegan dude in Adelaide, and he had just stormed my show, and I was doing I do a meet and greet after every show where I meet everyone and we talk and I sign autographs because I'm a big deal, and and this dude just storms in, massive dude about my height, so I'm about 6'8", he was about my height. He's got a camera crew with him, and he's like, "You fucking said this about me and all this stuff. You need to apologise." And I've just turned on straight away. I was like, "I'm not apologising. You're a cocksucker." Fuck you, mate. Like, he's not going to punch me in the head. We're in front of all these people. Nothing's going to happen here. It's going to be fine. But then I was at the Green Roof recently, and there's this piece of shit, red-headed piece of shit. I've already said piece of shit. And he tried to blue me in the ATM line because he said I was a racist. And I said, "When have I ever been racist?" He goes, "You know what I'm talking about." I was like, "No. No, I don't."
I feel like only 2 or 3 fight challenges is pretty quiet for Newcastle, though. Usually you can't step out at a licensed venue without at least one a week.
But it was funny. It was on Anzac Day, and 2 minutes earlier, I was just talking to all these ex-army dudes. It was 2 or 2 or 3 not Secret Service, special forces guys. And he said to me, "Mate, anyone fucks with you, you come and get me, and I'll fucking headbutt him." I was looking for that dude. I was like, "Where are you?" But out of every single person that I meet, the vast majority are very, very positive. I was at Post Malone in Brisbane recently, and I decided to travel to Brisbane because it's a 30-minute drive to the airport and then an hour flight. It's easier than going to Sydney, right?
Yeah. That's true, yeah.
It really is. And I fucking hate Sydney. So I did that. And I think, and this is not overestimating, this isn't being ridiculous. I'm not being hyperbolic at all. I think I got at least 450 photos that night with people.
Wow.
It was insane. So every time I went to the toilet or whatever, went to the bar line, like lines would form around me. It was insane. And at one point, the security had to come and get me and like help me back to my seat. Wow. It was awesome, but it was also just, it was unbelievable.
That's incredible. Yeah.
So it's been an amazing 12 months. It's, but also in saying all that, I feel exactly the same. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like you think that because all ever wanted to do as a kid was be a stand-up comedian. And now that I've done that, I am in that position. I thought I'd be like, oh, I've made it. I've done it. But in reality, nothing's changed at all. Just a few more people sort of know me and I've got a weird job. And that's it.
Is it weird having to justify that the weird job? Obviously, it's something that the first question when everyone meets you is like, oh yeah, g'day, what do you do? And then suddenly you've got this weird niche of being this comedian as well as having this huge online presence, and it's sort of not a job that I feel that people are used to having. Like used to explaining, like people expect I'm an accountant or I'm a carpenter.
There's never any follow-up question.
I'll tell you the strangest one I ever got in answer to that question. I was at the last many years ago, and I ran into a guy I'd gone to high school with, and I said, Jonesy, mate, how are you? What are you doing with yourself? As you always do when you haven't seen anyone for 4 or 5 years. He said, what are you doing with yourself? And he said, I've just got back from Mongolia.
Yes.
I said, what are you doing in Mongolia, Jonesy? He said, my dad was establishing the first ever wind farm in Mongolia, setting up those enormous, those enormous fans. Not fans, what are they called? Windmills.
Windmills.
To power the capital city in Mongolia. And I've never really wanted to ask that question again because I feel like when I ask that guy...
You're never going to top windmills in Mongolia.
I'm not going to top it, but I feel like you may have topped it, You've got that job description where people just look at it and go, oh my God.
Yeah, people
That's
don't
incredible.
really know. I tell people I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
Because that's what I like doing. Because people like... Especially like some people just go, oh, people look at you differently when you're unemployed. Like, what do you do all day? Oh, nothing. I was just at home.
Just chilling.
But my days are pretty busy. Like I write all day and I either make videos all day or I perform, or not perform, but perform to a camera by myself sort of thing. And just write and make videos, edit. That's pretty much my day every day. And
which you've moved into now. You started doing more with open mics and stuff. You mentioned in your special Behind the Beard, a lot of it started with open mics and stand-ups, and then you moved into the video creation. Why was that? What was it about the video side of things that really took you?
The thing is, stand-up is, forever and a day, it was all about doing open mics, and then you'd eventually meet a manager, and they would take you on this journey where they start to get you involved in this and this and this, and then you'd be a star. And that's just not how it is anymore.
Yeah.
You don't get picked as a successful comedian in Australia unless you fit a very certain niche. You have to be marketable. You have to be able to be put on Channel 10 or the ABC, and you have to be very, very nice, and you have to fit everyone's delicate sensibilities, and you have to not offend people. And that's just not me. That's not what I enjoy. So I was getting nowhere. I was doing like the Newcastle. There's not much of a Newcastle scene, and there wasn't then either. And and I was doing that, and I was traveling to Sydney every now and then, and leaving work at 5 o'clock to get to Sydney by 8. It's just annoying. And you do it 5 minutes, you don't get paid, and you drive home. You get home at 1 o'clock.
And you're in Sydney as well, like you said, terrible place.
Terrible.
We don't care for Sydney.
Not
this
at all.
podcast.
Awful. I hate it. So then, after about 5 years of doing that, I came to the idea that, okay, this is just not the way to do it. And even though it's really looked down upon in the Australian comedy community to do YouTube videos, I thought, stuff it. This is how everyone who's successful is making money, and they're becoming a big successful comedian. They're developing an audience. This is the way to do it. This is the best way to reach people. This is the future. And I went out and I finally decided to make a video. And that video was a Dickhead's Guide to Newcastle. And it's been almost 2 years since I released that. And as I talk about in the special, it took me about a year to get to 1,000 subscribers. And then just one video clicked, and it went from 1,000 to 150,000 in a week. So the growth was very rapid and has continued to go quite rapidly. I'm aiming to hit 1 million by my birthday in the middle of July. So that's the aim. But through that, I've developed an audience. I've been able to go on tour. I'm about to go on another tour, which is going to be a world tour. I'm doing America and Europe as well.
Oh, wow.
So that's massive, right? That's massive, and I never thought I'd be able to do that, but here we are. And that's all thanks to me taking a bit of a chance and putting a lot of hard work, putting in, 2 or 3 videos a week for non-stop for the last almost 2.5 years now. So that's just how it sort of came about, and pretty much giving up a social life and all that type of shit, and just doing it, getting it done, and fucking no.
And then there must be some universal truth with going on a world tour. You know, there must be some core, some heart of it that everyone around the world all seems to agree.
Yeah, I'm right.
Excellent.
But no, it's been great, and in all honesty, like, I'm just glad I took that chance, and a lot of people still talk shit and say, you know, he's just an internet comedian, and those people can suck me dick.
There's, you speak about how early on there wasn't much comedy scene in Newcastle. I believe for a long time there was absolutely nothing. Maybe there was an open mic night at the Ori where you'd get a lot of the people sort of reoccurring and doing the same 5 minutes and things like that.
Interspersed with the various violences that would occur at the Ori.
And it was a violent venue, man. Sydney comedians wouldn't go there because it was known as one of the hardest venues to do. But I used to love it there.
Yeah, you mentioned in Behind the Beard again about, you know, people getting beaten up in the toilets, the odd glassing here and there.
Yeah, there was one comedian that got like just King Hill or something from behind in the toilets at the Ori because he said something to someone, and that's just what happened there. It was just because, you know, the Ori's sort of like it's on that narrow stretch where, you know, people are on a pub crawl or whatever, and just people just come in there and just carry on like pork chops, and that's what the comedians were performing to. But on your point, there was also. The Crown and Anchor had an open mic night, and that was great as well. But as you said, the same comedians would get up and just bomb every single week, and it's just not a good environment to be in. Just those terrible humans. Anyway,
a lot of off the back of your own hard work and your own rise to prominence. Now Newcastle has its very own comedy festival, be coming in the next few months to Newcastle. That must be nice to see an industry which you helped create and prosper yourself, as well as a regular fellow and a good friend of the show, Andrew Millos, as well, was one of the early pioneers, I think, as well as Newcastle comedy. Is it nice to see something like to grow where there was nothing before?
It is, and a lot of that comedy festival has a lot to do with me. Because Andrew didn't want to do it, and then I was like, just do it for Christ's sake. He got funding off the local
council,
government, council, and he said, "How do I get it?" I said, "Just ring them." And he's like, "No, that won't work." I said, "Just do it for Christ's sake," and he did it, and he got it, and that's great. He hasn't got me involved in the festival, unfortunately, but you know, that's right. He's got his people that he likes to pick, and they all don't like me, and that's fine. They don't want to put me in the same.
I see.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. If you want to go see, I won't name names.
No. But it's a very exciting time for Newcastle, obviously, to have this festival, and it's a very exciting time for Newcastle to see a bit of bloody success on the football field.
Three in a row.
Three in a row. I think I can remember the last time we did an episode where we'd won 3 in a row. And there was lots of yelling, and it was
99.
lots of 99. Yeah. We were just children then.
It was someone messaged the page and said, when was the last time that, you know, you'd be happy that you're celebrating 3 in a row for the first time? I said, well, no, it happened in 2017, but we still got the spoon. And that was a weird time.
I think that was the last time we celebrated winning 3 in a row.
Yes, yeah,
that spoon year.
The spoon year,
terrible,
because we won 5 games that year. But it was, you know, obviously it's good to see the boys. You know, just this year was meant to be our year, and it wasn't at the start, and then now it sort of looks like it might be. And to get over the Bulldogs, who are probably the worst team in the comp at the moment, but just to keep adding to it, and now suddenly there's a bit of energy, there's a bit of building. We're just outside the 8, which is exciting. But sorry, let me.
Do you get to watch much footy on the road, or does your set times generally line up with when football is being played?
Man, I only ever watch the Knights play. I don't give a shit about any other teams, and I don't really I just don't even follow it apart from the Knights. But I didn't see Saturday's game. I was at a premiere. My own premiere. I was at a premiere. I couldn't watch it, but I did catch the plane home the next morning with the boys.
Oh, the lads.
And none of them said hello, but that's all right. I'm not angry about that at all.
Well, I would be. And
I was filthy.
Think reasonably you should be, yes.
Was there anyone in particular that didn't maybe look the other way? Or
David Clemmer. He's a big pussy. He's scared of me. He is. He knows who I am. I've done a gig in front of him, and he heckled me, and I destroyed that bald man.
Okay.
But you know, that's all right, Dave.
That's all right. We might have him on the show later in the season.
Yeah.
We can remind him of this clip.
Dave can have right of reply.
Yeah, Dave, if he's in here, hide me in here and I'll come and I'll sort that little bitch out. No, he's doing great. And the hard yards from him, I think, are setting the players up like Kalen Ponga to be able to do the real special things that he does. And I think
special things he does in spades.
that step on the weekend, I don't know if you guys can play that.
We can play that, actually.
It's funny you brought that up.
We've got a clip right here. Here we go so this is when it started to break down, and then Mitchell Pearce, obviously, this is definitely not a knock on. I don't care what anyone says.
I think that was a knocked back. I think you guys will agree with me there.
Can we go back and have a look at that?
Yeah, we can slow it
try.
down. But there's
So why is this not a knock on?
okay. Well, we'll go through it. So this wasn't called a knock on, and we've it's
But he's
went
touched it.
behind him. It went behind him though, so I was happy with the call. Graham Annesley came out today and said that it was in fact a knock on, but it's too late now.
the ink is dry as far as I'm concerned. But Kalen Ponga, look, there's nothing on here. Absolutely, and Wooshka, there's your step and breaks the ankle of Kieran Fawn, who's no slouch, no slouch. At
Very
all.
quick, and it was very Roger Tuivasa-Shek like.
I was thinking it was Tuivasa-Shek like, yes.
The way he stepped, the way he drew all the attention of 4 and 2, the way he was moving to the right side of the field there up at Suncorp, and then to somehow explode out of the gates and get to the point where he was able to split straight up the middle and score.
It's quite something, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like that young man who is making, I think, like $15 million a year, and I think he's having sex with every woman in Newcastle. I think he's having a good time.
Bloody good on him for it.
Oh, yeah.
Bloody good on him for it.
Good on him. I hope he starts to move down to the Central Coast and starts putting it on birds down there. He's having a great time.
I tell you what, I think there's a few blokes as well that's very much in love with Kalen Ponga.
I'd suck him off. Don't worry. When he's on the show, put that play
in a heartbeat.
It might be a hard get to get Kalen back on that. But
has he been on?
No. We
haven't had Kalen yet.
Why not? And the Knights looking after you?
Always looking after us. They're possibly the greatest club in the NRL. Looking after all the little people, including us.
Yes, the very small people.
They haven't contacted me.
They haven't.
No.
Well, I think they wanted to get you for the '97 show back last year, but I think that's when you started your tour, and I think we got the call up.
They scraped the bottom right out of the barrel and called us.
That's all right. It was I think it was just lucky we had a video already on YouTube that had all of us, and they're like, well, he's busy, maybe the other two. So it was very fortuitous for us. So that's it. You're also paving the way for low lives like us, which is nice.
In fact, you quite literally paved the way for us for our very first stand-up. Nagy, you remember that? Butts introduced us for our ill-fated stand-up special that we did. Now, at the Happy Wombat.
Now, Butts, you've got a lot of videos out and a lot of content and, a lot of...
too much.
And for us, stand-up wise, we've got... it was originally a 7-minute and we got called off after 5. Now, we for the viewers that don't know, we tried... Liam and I tried stand-up at the Happy Wombat, the show that you were emceeing, and you introduced us, and that was probably the high point of the introduction, and it only went down because I think we tried to do stand-up together.
Yes.
Which is... Now, I'm not sure if this is new to you, Butts, but stand-up's usually done with one person. And we tried it. We thought 2 of us would be better, and it definitely wasn't.
No. But also, was that your first time doing
Absolutely,
stand-up?
yeah.
Well, that's okay. You're allowed to bomb.
I'm not going to say each of us individually would have done better.
No.
We probably would have done far worse.
Well, we shared the bombing. At least we bombed together. And Liam, that's the way I want to go out. I'm bombing with
Thank you, Nagy.
And it was, but look, it was definitely an experience. But let's just say we've never been asked back.
No,
I remember that night, and the room promoter that night was the Andrew Milos character we were speaking about earlier. Yeah. And not to be racist here, but the Greek did come out. And I'm pretty sure he wanted to fight everybody when you tour up. But hey, that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
These things happen.
That's showbiz, baby.
You live and learn.
Yeah.
We like to be seated behind a microphone, and that's where we feel the most comfortable.
I bombed recently in Perth, and I finished my show, run a show. I sold out all the shows that I was doing there, and it was about 12:30 at night, and I was walking the streets of Perth, and I ran into my friend Kyle Legacy.
Yeah.
And Kyle's from the UK, skinny dude with an afro, hilarious guy. And he gets me up at his late night comedy show, and he says, "Mate, just do the most offensive stuff you can. It's all about trying to get the audience to leave." I was like, All right, cool. So I get up, he introduces me, and I do a few little lighter jokes to get going. And he's, the crowd is just not vibing with it. No one's laughing. Like I tell one joke, and it's about teen pregnancy. And I've done this joke across Australia, and it always works.
Yeah.
And this night, just silence, just crickets.
Right.
And the sound guy starts playing the cricket noise. I was like, fucking righto.
What is it? Hey, it's Saturday. Like, like you get red faces, like when they used to do like the brrr noises, and like they would have just things like that when things were real. Like,
And so I keep going. I do another joke, and then some lady's just looking at me, just going,
yeah,
"You're awful." She says. She's like whispers to a friend, and. So I just kept going because I'm there for 7 minutes, and I started to just go, okay, because as you start to do stand up, you learn that often if the audience isn't laughing, it's not your fault, it's theirs.
All right, yeah, of course,
absolutely true.
Yeah.
So I said that. I said, you are the worst audience I've ever had. I was like, fuck you guys. This is 12 o'clock at night, and in Perth it's like 3:30, 4 o'clock at home.
And this was just a chance walk by. You're walking. You're almost doing this guy a favour.
Yeah, 100% doing you a favour.
Yeah,
filling his show. So then I just get racist. And, well, not racist, like in a nice way.
Yeah,
and I start doing jokes about women and all this type of stuff. And the audience hate me. And then this woman starts like giving me the finger and all this type of stuff. I said, "You're a C word." I called a woman. So anyway, I get off stage and they're all booing me. I'm like, "Nah, I'm staying on. I got 2 more minutes." I just bombed terribly, and I walk off. And Kyle gets back on stage and he said, "Oh, I've got to let everyone in on a secret. I told everyone before Isaac got up not to laugh at anything he said." So I've just abused this crowd.
Yeah.
I've just attacked them with everything.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm a little bit drunk. I'm angry. I've almost turned into a Kramer moment. I've just gone absolutely ballistic. Called this poor woman a horrible word.
Yeah.
Although she probably deserved it.
Yeah.
And it was just because Kyle told him not to laugh.
Is that surely? I always think bombing. Like obviously, Liam and I dipped our toe into it and bombed once, but we'd bomb anyway. But like surely that's the worst joke you could be played on. Like obviously, like the worst prank is having like a manufactured bomb. Like
it was shit. I was so angry. Like ruined my whole my whole run at that festival. I was absolutely filthy. And I still haven't forgiven him. I hope he gets deported.
Reasonably so.
Absolutely. I'm going to get Peter Dutton on the line immediately. But
he's a good friend of the show. We'll get him. We'll get him on for you. We'll get Karen to get his.
Karen will fax over the info. We'll get Peter
big
on.
night supporter. Favourite player was actually George Carmine.
That's funnily enough.
Hollywood George
George Hollywood Carmine. We're going to take a halftime break and we'll be right back with more Joust in a second. Thanks, Justice Play.
He set you up just to bomb.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the second half of the Joust. We're here with Isaac Butterfield. Now you're travelling around a lot. You're on the road. A lot of venues, a lot of pubs, and you see a lot of beers in your time on the taps there, maybe from the stage. But do you have a favourite beer?
Yes. Yes, I do, Nagy. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. My favourite beer by far would have to go to a local company, and that's Murray's Brewery, because they've recently come out with this amazing drop. It's 262 Nova Castria Brew. Oh, that's why it says Nova Castria. It rhymes. Okay. And I tell you what, it's smooth, it's tasty, it's refreshing, and you can really almost taste the hops. It's so fresh that I cannot believe it, ladies and gentlemen. It is perhaps one of the greatest things that I've ever put in my mouth, and trust me, I'm in the entertainment industry. There's a lot of things in my mouth. That's weird. Anyway, Nova Castria Brew. This one's for you.
Outstanding.
It's brilliant,
Yeah.
Send me something.
Oh yeah,
This kid's a talent. This
It's
guy's
good.
a talent.
it's good. It's fantastic beer as well. It's that's very good off the cuff there.
If this one's for you is not their slogan, by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Their marketing department needs a fucking rocket.
it's a fantastic. Obviously, there was so many venues. Do you have a particular favorite place that you played comedy that you did comedy? Did you ever go to a venue and you go, this place? I tell you what, in the middle of Melbourne, I'll come back here again because it's got like hit the right nail as far as
The
vibe.
Comics Lounge in Melbourne
Yeah.
is amazing. I love that room. The Rhino room in Adelaide
yeah.
is incredible.
That's just a shed, mind you, isn't it? That's just like
No, it's different now. They moved.
Oh right, okay.
But it's still really cool. It's the only crowd I've been in front of when there was only like 170 people in there, but
Yeah.
I was like scared with the noise that they were creating. It was really full on.
Right.
The only other one I can sort of think of off the top of my head was where I filmed my special, which was in Chatswood, I think, just off the top of my head, which is a beautiful theatre.
Yeah.
And where I'm doing my Newcastle show this year, which is at the Civic Theatre, which I can't wait to do because that's where I always wanted to perform. So to do that's really cool. And I'm doing the Enmore as well in Sydney, which will be really cool. But that there's a place called Lazy Susan in Perth, which is only like 100 people or 95 people get in there. And it's small and it's sweaty and the ceiling's like this high.
Yeah. That sounds like the Rhino room that I went to in Adelaide.
Yeah,
it was
There's some cool rooms across the country, but there's also some really shit ones.
Some real stinkers.
In Port Macquarie, I had a balcony. I was on top of a balcony just talking down to people.
like Caesar.
Yeah.
There used to be a nightclub. There used to be a nightclub in Port Macquarie, similar to theme that again the roof was about there. And
Well,
so
what's
the
that pub
roof
in
always
town?
used to sweat.
What's that pub in town that's got the real low downstairs area right next
The
to
Grand.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Grand.
Grand.
Well,
They've got that
the underground, they used to call it.
Yeah.
Like, but is that place still open? I don't know.
The Grand is. The pub is.
No. Yeah, well, the Grand is still open. I don't know if they still do anything
Don't know if the
underneath.
downstairs. I don't think so.
It's right across
You
the
know
road.
my favourite pub in Newcastle?
What's that, Liam?
It's got to be the Commonwealth
Commonwealth
Hotel.
Hotel, ladies and gentlemen. I go there constantly.
It's a wonderful venue.
He's often to be seen there. But it's and everyone's often the who's who of Newcastle is there, and everyone else. So it's a collection of people that are quite prominent and important, as well as everyone else that you want to see.
Schlubs like us.
Schlubs like us are also there.
And don't forget, Moorish Mystery Mondays is on every Monday at the Commonwealth Hotel. 3 courses brought to you courtesy of the head chef. Whatever they wish to bring you that day.
You don't know what you're signing up for, but it is absolutely magnificent. Every time that you go there for Moorish Mondays on a Monday from 6 till 8:30 p.m.
I've seen some big names at the Commie over the years. Milton Fido used to hang around quite a bit. Cooper Vuna.
Junior Saul.
Junior Saul.
Junior
He
Saul,
was
yeah.
there quite a bit. There's some few other players. Brian Carney.
Oh, yes.
So everyone that's played about 30 games for Newcastle.
Yeah, it's once you get past that stage. I'm trying to think of the one bloke who Keith Lulia.
Keith Lilia.
Wow.
Yeah.
The worst player that ever played for the Knights. He used to spend a bit of time there. No offense, Keith.
No. And no offense to the Commie either.
No, Commie, great place. They look after the special people in society.
They really do. It's a magnificent pub, and we look forward to going back there very soon. Now we put the hats off this week to you, the people who won the hats off for this week.
Hats off.
Who was it between, Liam?
It was between Mitchell Pearce this week and Herman SASA. Mitchell Pearce took out the vote on Facebook with 62% and 49% on Twitter. He had 102 run metres, 1 try and 440 kicking metres. Herman SASA obviously came second. He had a really good game, 144 metres, 47 post-contact metres and 8 tackle busts. He was outstanding off the bench. He really brought some good energy and enthusiasm.
He got my vote, Herman SASA, because he has been out of the side. He's been in the reserve grade, and he's comes back on, and it was just that wrecking ball that you hope to see. The Knights have always played well of really good front rowers. But you might be aware of this. But through the 90s, the
Never heard of him.
the Knights had a couple of bloody fantastic front rowers that won them a couple of premierships in the end. So it's and that's where we really our strength is, and that's where it hasn't been for so many years as well.
The props win games.
The props win games.
As much as people like to think it's all about the backs, if you don't set a good platform from your forwards, then you're just not going to get anywhere. And sure, we've had big props over the last 15 years or so, but none have really stood out as people who are aggressive, angry, and want to hurt the opposition. I hope that is what we get with people like SASA and Clemmer and these type of guys. People who are actually angry, want to put a dint in the opposition.
Because you're right, it's something that has been really missing from Newcastle sides of recent memory, going as far back as I can remember.
Absolutely. I mean, the last one that really stands out is probably Josh Perry, and I'm pretty sure he retired
2011, I think. Oh, no, he played Manly. He played in 2 grand finals with Manly as well.
He did.
So he played in 3 grand finals. Good God. It's 09 Manly, 11 Manly, and 2001 with the Knights. That's insane. I was always a Matty Parsons fan myself.
Loved Matty Parsons.
And that's
only good big man.
And he was big. How tall are you in centimetres, Butts?
203.
203. I think he was 201. So you've even got a couple of centimetres on Parsons.
Yeah.
And he was he was the biggest man in the comp. You used to play football as well.
For many years.
Dudley Magpies.
Mighty Dudley Magpies. I only retired 2 years ago, and I don't think I'd go back. I'd probably someone would try and break my fucking jaw. But I do miss it sometimes. But also, I was watching the boys play the other night, and people are just breaking arms left, right, and centre. I was like, I'd much rather just be a tough man behind a computer screen. That's a lot easier.
There's speaking of a few injuries, so we'll just finish off the game quickly against the Bulldogs. We took the lead very early. They came back, but we managed to with that Ponga try that we showed just before, they managed just to steal the game back. Sort of the kind of grit and guts that we hadn't really seen for the first half of the season.
Yeah, there was about a half an hour in there where the Knights' attack kind of started faltering, and the Bulldogs very much were on the attack for a bit, but the Knights' goal line defence I thought was very good. There was a period of about 5 repeat sets or 5 sets in a row that the Bulldogs had on the Knights' line, and they weren't, to be fair, they weren't throwing too much at the Knights, but Knights managed to repel everything the Bulldogs threw out and managed to hold them out, which I thought was good because that defensive steal I don't think we get from the Knights last year, the year before that.
2 years ago, we would have leaked points, soft points, just sort of fatigue. They would have just put a front rower, a big aggressive guy, and we would have gone, oh, they got one right through the middle. They just don't do that anymore, which is nice to see. Liam, who have we got next week?
Next week, we've got the Dragons. Now, the Dragons are off the back of 3 losses in a row. They're not in good shape at the moment. They're sitting in 10th, just behind the Knights, who are in 9th. And they've got plenty of injury worries this year. They've lost Corey Norman. They've lost Gareth Widdop earlier in the year. Tyson Frizzell's been in and out with some injuries. Obviously, there's the DeBellin debacle. Why has no one called it that? The DeBellin debacle.
I think it's a little bit more serious than the debacle if he's found guilty.
But it kind of it's an alliteration.
Yeah, they never really called it the Rolf Harris debacle.
Fair call. That's probably good, actually. But, we've got Edric Lee and Connor Watson have been named to play despite a wee bit of doubt from injuries sustained on the weekend.
Inside scoop, Connor Watson was seen by a bearded man at the airport in a boot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
In a particular boot. I don't know what you call it.
Moon
Just a
boot.
boot.
The
Moon
moon.
boot.
Yeah.
And Edric Lee, I don't know. I didn't see him. But, I can confirm that Connor Watson isn't out.
Isn't out.
Oh, no.
You've heard it here first.
Well, you got to think, if Watson's out, that opens straight up for Mason Lino to come back in.
inside.
And then if Edric Lee's out, I think you'll probably see maybe Hunt go to the wing and Sione.
But I did
back into
also
centre.
speak to the Knights doctor, who happens to be my doctor as well. And he confirmed to me, when I asked him the very important question, how's the injuries looking? He said, not too bad.
Good.
That's good. That's good. That's
He's a doctor to the stars.
a clean bill of
Wow.
health. It's do you have to get do you have to work your way up? Obviously, being a prominent figure of Newcastle now, do you get upgraded doctors? Do you go in to see a doctor and they say, actually, you're now seeing the celebrity doctor? Also, the doctors at the Knights.
Pretty much.
A door opens and lights shine.
Pretty
on
much. At Woolies, they give me the real food. They actually take me to the actual store. Everything else is fake. So, no, it's good. When I go to the Asian Star, the brothel, they take me away from the ladies with the penises. And, it's very nice.
You get the celebrity
Well,
treatment
you're missing out, Butts. You're missing out.
all around. Oh God, Liam.
The Joust brought to you by the Asian Star.
That's our new one. That's our new sponsor. It's it's a business that's always been there. Speaking of,
That's it. It's a successful Newcastle small business. What more could you want to endorse?
Run by Novocastrians,
Yeah.
for Novocastrians.
when you've gone around the country, and
How
you've
many brothels have I visited? Heaps.
and you come back to Newcastle, I always think that I spent a bit of time living away from Newcastle, and God, I missed it. What's it like? You go away and do a show, do a thing in another city, and you come back. I think Newcastle is a special place for me. Does it have that same feeling for you?
I've been everywhere in Australia now, from Broken Hill to Cairns, and Newcastle's my favourite place.
It's a great city, isn't it?
I love it. I honestly do. I just think it has the best obviously I live here, but like the combination of the beach, everything's so close. You know where you're going. It's easy. It's simple, and it's nice. The people are good people. It's structured quite well.
There's a tram now.
That's cool. It's not even free. Whatever. But yeah, no, I think I like where Newcastle's going. I like the tram. I like the way that they're doing all that shit up. Like, good on them. Why not?
It's all
Bloody oath.
It's all happening. Newcastle's a funny place as well, just because they're obviously it has a real small town vibe.
Yeah,
It does.
Yeah.
You two are related.
That's all. That's
Speaking to that small town vibe.
That's
Yeah,
true.
we
yeah.
are too.
We are related. Yeah, no, that's. But we're distantly related. But I think everyone might be distantly related in Newcastle.
I had a
Well, because Liam, you had
I
a
had
bit
of an incident when I was in mid high school. I think about year 8, year 9. I
Yeah.
started dating a young girl. Not a young girl.
Yeah.
Sorry, she was of the same
You were
age.
young
I was
also.
young also.
Yeah.
So I started dating this girl and went home proud as punch. And went up to my dad and said, "Yeah, cop that, Dad. I'm seeing a woman." And he said, "Oh, what's her name?" And I said, "I won't mention the young lady's name, but her surname was Ma."
Yeah.
And Dad looked straight at me and he goes, "Huh? Your grandmother was a ma. You reckon your cousins? I said, thank you, Dad. It was, I think, not my first real girlfriend, but one of the early ones. So it was still all new and exciting. And Dad just shut me down immediately by saying that she shared a name with my own grandmother.
But it's funny the things you learn about people you didn't know. In fact, I've got one thing that I learned about you, Nagy, that I'd just like to find out. 1 second. Just let me just do my research right here. I'll keep going. Don't worry about it. Are you aware of a female with by the name of Sigrid? Sigrid. Don't know her last name.
Yeah.
She messaged me on Instagram yesterday, and she said, just a friendly heads up, Nagy from the Joust podcast is a closet cyclist. Now,
I didn't want to be the one to break it to you, Butts. I'm so sorry.
I don't want to. I'm glad you serve these in cans and not glasses. I don't want to turn this into an atrocity.
Yeah.
But Nagy, you piece of shit. Why?
I think we could. Look. There's lots of people out there that say a lot of things about people that are, in fairly prominent positions. Not including me, but one of the things that was a rumor that I had to fight very hard, and that wasn't that I was a cyclist, is that I can't ride a bike.
So hang on, where does this rumor come from?
Look, this is just the people out there, the people that...
people look at him from behind and they assume there's not a bicycle seat in the world that can support that ass.
Are your calves just voluptuous?
He is voluptuous.
I'm voluptuous downstairs, yeah.
You listeners can't see it because they only really see from the waist up, but...
Yeah,
hey,
no.
he puts the hourglass to shame.
It's okay. I've got childbearing hips too. Don't worry about it.
It must be a family trait.
It must be.
Time for the news.
All
What's happening in the news?
right,
this week,
time
mate?
for the news. First thing in the news, Dylan Walker has been cleared of his assault charge. He's been ruled not guilty and he will play this weekend.
Interesting. Hopefully they, I like the no-fault sacking.
No fault stand down.
Stand down was a sacking, effectively. I think it's important considering the weight of the crimes against them. It doesn't bode well for the game if we...
Do you think it's a good thing, though? Because can you really, like, at any other workplace, like, say you were employed full-time by the Joust.
Sure. In many ways we are.
Yeah.
And there was a rumour that, okay, instead of saying to me that you're a cyclist,
Yes.
she said that you were, and this is hypothetical,
Purely.
you were a man that hid in the King Edward Park bushes,
Yeah.
touching yourself,
Yep.
and we had to stand you down even though you hadn't had your day in front of court. Would that be a fair thing to happen?
If that was the accusation, I'd have a very nervous few weeks.
Yeah.
Also,
I think Nagy would. I think Nagy's the kind of guy he'd be good enough to stand himself down. I think, and put together his case and focus purely on the case.
Purely on the case. And
I couldn't carry the show. It'd fold.
My point being is people can say anything. And then with Dylan Walker, the evidence was highly stacked against him. I did see some of the video footage and it was quite interesting.
Look, I think the interesting thing with Dylan Walker especially is that on the interesting topic of domestic violence, it's when the person that he's still with makes the accusation and calls the authorities and whatnot at the time, there's a few things that you just tick off. And same with Jack DeBellin, which I think is important to remember. Whether they're in the same room at the time, whether they something happened at the time is all ticked off. There's not like a person that you've never met before. That'd be very easy to say, like, this thing never happened. I've never seen that person. But if there was... if it was more that, all right, this person is my girlfriend. Okay, she did call the police. Okay, she called the police in tears. Why was she crying? And there's like, so obviously they were in the same room together. Obviously she left crying. Obviously she called the police straight away. So something has happened there.
Sure.
And it's like if it was someone that was, if it was the postman that said, that bloke over there keeps touching me every time I put letters through his mailbox, you'd be like, that's a bizarre thing to claim and an easy thing to defend. But if it was something very close to you, I feel like there needs to be some sort of reaction to that. Would you agree, Buzz?
Well, I mean, and I agree from the point of view that obviously something needs to be done. But the thing is that people, although domestic violence is obviously a bad thing,
yes,
we don't need to say that, but I will for argument's sake.
Sure.
I think it is important to remember that sometimes in these cases they aren't all what they seem.
Yeah.
And once again, obviously, men who hit women or carry on like fuckwits with their wives or their girlfriends or their partners, they're pigs and they should be locked up. But sometimes what is said to the police hasn't occurred.
Sure.
Or maybe it is close to the truth, but not quite the whole truth. And these are seen in statistics around the world. That these are sometimes these stories are fabricated, not all the time, and not even a majority of the time, but sometimes they are. And my worry, my concern is that a player X is going to get in trouble, and the police are going to turn up, and he's going to lose his career, even though he didn't do anything wrong.
Sure.
So that's the concern. I think the important thing here is that the justice system needs to take its due course.
Yes.
And before anyone is, if you run a speeding fine. I can't think of a good example. I'll tell you what, 262 really hit me. I don't like where I went with that.
That's all right. No. Well, I understand your point of view, and I think it's a very it's a new thing for the NRL, and it's a stance that might be considered too firm in some circumstances. I think in this case now, Dylan Walker he's been cleared by the courts. He can continue to play the season, and for the rest of his career, it should be seen that he was found innocent. But if he was playing up until this point, I think you'd have the jury of the crowd, and then it would just be a blotch on his career. I feel like now he was out of the side, out of the sight, and out of the mind of a lot of people, and he can come back on and say, look, I was found innocent.
Well, perhaps it shouldn't be reported.
But yeah, for
the whole thing, if it hasn't been confirmed, you're just throwing someone under the bus.
Yeah,
and perhaps in that situation, rightfully so, but perhaps not.
Well, the rugby league media does love reporting on things that
the same thing happened with Mitchell Pearce.
Yes.
The NRL came out and massively destroyed his career for a couple of years. Destroyed his life. That man could have gone through enormous amount of mental health issues. He could have even ended up killing himself because of just a brash decision by the NRL.
I thought you said a breast decision.
No, a breast decision. A doggy breast decision.
A doggy breast.
No, but the thing is, like, that poor dude, he fucked around. He carried on like a dickhead.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Exactly.
That's what the NRL should have come out and said.
Now,
Who
it's
cares?
funny you bring that up because another item in the news today is that the NRL have come out and admitted that they got the Mitchell Pearce decision wrong.
Yes.
They have admitted that they were overzealous in their fining and suspension of him. And
$125,000 fine.
$125,000 in 8 games, I think it was.
Mate, if I got fined $125K every time I pretended to have sex with a dog, I'd be in debt. All right, I'd have a lot of debt, $250,000 worth of debt. But it's just ridiculous. It's as you said, it's an overreaction. It's overzealous, and this is what the NRL has been guilty of for years. And probably not just the NRL, but other organisations, is they jump to conclusions. They freak out. They have to, throw a wet towel on the fire straight away. When in reality, you could just sit back and go, "Oh, hang on, maybe it's not as big of an issue as you
Very reactive, the NRL.
It is. They are
very reactive.
They are, and it's not the way to handle this shit. If you just came out and Mitchell Pearce, the NRL said you need to go out and talk about it, and Mitchell Pearce come out and said, "Listen, I carried on like a pork chop. I was pretending to root a dog. Obviously, that's not the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Kids, don't do drugs. Don't drink alcohol. Don't try and fuck your pets. I'm Mitchell Pearce. Good night."
It would have been solved within a week.
100%.
Yeah.
As portion of the sorry, then what else got in the news?
I was going to say, next in the news, we have to put out an official retraction.
Yeah.
We told people that James Seguiara would not be signing for any club outside of Sydney, and now he's gone and signed for Brisbane.
Immediately.
As soon as we said he wouldn't sign for a club outside of Sydney, he's gone and signed for Brisbane. So they've got a good little pickup there, and James Seguiara, who'll be filling in for Andrew McCulloch, I would assume, or swapping with Jake Turpin, who's their young hooker there.
McCulloch's out with it.
He's out injured, yep. So I imagine he'll form a bit of a tag team with Jake Turpin up there. Also in the news, Jack Bird has torn his ACL and Joey Leilua has a bulging disc in his neck. Now, they're both looking to be out for the season, which has opened up a potential spot in one of the Blues centre spots. I think it's the
Jesse Ramian,
right centre, which happens to be Jesse Ramian's position.
Now,
and there is a bit of talk going around that Freddie may consider young Jesse to play in his first Origin series.
I'm all for the selection by default. Default, I might chance on occasion. I remember one time we made our the Great Pigeons cricket club in our indoor cricket days made the grand final by default because the other team all went away on a Bucks trip. So I'm all for Jesse Ramian making his Origin debut because there's no one else.
It could be the case.
It could be the case.
With James Roberts horribly out of form. You've got those two who are both right centres. They're injured for the season, and the centre stocks for the Blues are looking pretty thin. So, yeah, could well be Jesse Ramian.
Are you all for default selection, Butts, or do you think that...
I don't know who Jesse Ramian is, but good on him. I hope he wins.
He's been out of the side for a while. 2 thumbs up from Butts for Jesse Ramian.
And last item in the news, the Magic Round has attracted 134,677 people over the course of the weekend. That's a few people.
Now, are they counting people twice?
No. Now, I was reading about this today. They're
That's a good
counting
point.
each people once.
Each people.
Each once.
Each person
Good
is counted
English.
once. Yes.
No, well, that's interesting. And I was in Brisbane on the weekend, and it was really busy. And I think it's a great thing for any economy that really jumps on board with it and really promotes it. I think the NRL could have done a lot more. They could have had some more attractions. They could have had... Why they don't have a Legends game, number one, is absolutely atrocious. Why they don't have the female competition playing. Why they don't... I don't try to think of other people who can play. Why they don't have me there. But I think... And what I heard on the weekend is that they're talking about trying to get it to Newcastle. And I think that would be absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that'd be bananas.
The Legends of the League one? The Magic
Legends
Round.
League is coming.
Yes.
But the Magic Round... Imagine that Newcastle to have the stadium sold out at every single game.
Ooh.
Oh, right.
Oh, I like that idea.
It would be, and that'd be this town would actually go and watch.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who still from before the Newcastle times have their own team that they support. A lot about Tigers fans, a lot of Para fans, a lot of Dragons fans. I think you'd get like you said, you'd sell it out every day of the round. I would think if you had it in Newcastle.
Sure.
Well, there you go, Todd Greenberg again. He listens to the show.
Big fan of the show.
Big fan. So we'll put that to Todd.
Good on you, Todd. Well, you fucked up everything else. You might as well get something right, dickhead.
Time to open your sack, Liam. One more. There it's a huge zipper on your sack.
Zipper. It goes all the way around. All right, Jesse Forbes asks, first of all, Danny Levi's been playing good football. Do you think the Knights should retain him based on current form, or do you think the ship has sailed?
I think this obviously in the last 3 games he's played well, but we're looking at him with rose-coloured glasses, and those colours are also reflecting wins. If we'd lost maybe a few games, we'd be a little bit more critical. Knights fans are good at being critical.
Yes.
I think everyone's been good at being critical, really. But as soon as a few wins string together, things look positive. We think we can win the comp. Would you agree, Bart?
Yeah, it's an attitude. Winning is an attitude. Once you get a few wins on the board, you start to change the way you sort of look at games. The feelings in the sheds are different. The feelings after games are a lot different. You get to training and it's a lot different. With Danny Levi, he's a good player. He does his job, but he doesn't have that sort of special... I don't know. He doesn't have that special trait that I think works really well with the Pearce, the Watson, and the Ponga, the pairing, or not the pairing, the trio there. I think we need someone there that can really make or break a game. And if we can have that person, that doesn't mean Danny Levi is not a good player. He obviously is a good player. He's playing first grade, but I think there might be someone out there that we can pick up and really put in that position that can fire.
Yeah. I think I've kind of got to agree. I think Danny's, had a few chances at Newcastle, and he seems to fire when needed, but there's too many games where he doesn't fire.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him stay and, fire regularly, but whether or not he can keep his head together and keep that on the go regularly is another matter.
I think he's signed to the end of next year, possibly. I think you got 3. You can say, I think get him to the end of this year. Let's play it. There's a lot of jump, before shopping around June 30 and all this nonsense. Let's play out the year, have a bit of a season in review. I think he started slow, and I think the last 3 games he's come alive.
My problem is that I'm thinking, of a time with Danny Buderus.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're comparing, Danny Levi, who is a good player, with one of the best of all time.
Yeah.
So that's always an issue.
Yeah. Next question is from Liam Jones. Liam asks, boys, the Titans are looking at offloading Tyrone Peachey to anyone who will take him. He read tonight, or that would be yesterday night.
Yes.
Do you think there's a spot for him at the Knights, or does having Mann and Watson give us sufficient cover? I think if you bought Tyrone Peachey, you'd be buying just another number 14 that we've got ample cover for, another utility. Yeah. He hasn't really shone up at the Titans there. I know he was in the Origin side last year, but I don't think he's kicked on. Playing in the centres up there where we seem to have ample cover, so I don't think the Knights really need Tyrone Peachey.
There was a rumour that a player was signed by a club that he didn't want to go to. Could have been Tyrone Peachey, and then he was going to, in quotes, run dead, and then hope to be offloaded back to a Sydney club. And this, that was before the season even started, and he just hasn't lived up to his thing. That's obviously a bit of speculative dribble that's come from one of the large media organisations or one of the smaller ones.
It would be Buzz Rothfield.
Buzz Rothfield.
We love Buzz on
Liam's
this show.
favourite Favourite
He's
journalist.
a dear friend of ours. Dear friend of the show. Love Buzz. Daniel Turner asked, do you think, now this is a bit of a sports sciencey one, guys, so strap your sports science helmets on.
Sure.
Do you think the fact that there were 8 games on the same pitch in 3 days had something to do with the amount of leg injuries last weekend?
Well, apparently, sorry, you've interrupted
I
the
actually
question.
did some research on this.
yeah.
13 players went down with non-concussion injuries, which was actually the same amount for the corresponding round last year, and also round 5 and round 3. So I think I'd need to look more into the numbers on that, but I don't think it actually had as much of an effect as we thought it might.
It's nice to point the finger, though, isn't it? It's,
Oh, yeah. Sandcorp, I've heard it called before, instead of
to
Suncorp.
really look at the numbers or to really look at the stats there, you'd have to look at where the injuries occurred.
Yeah.
How chopped up the field was, what did they use as replacements for dirt, was it sand, all that type of stuff. Another interesting one that my old man's always talking about is the type of boots that people wear. That's why I always wore X-Blades, because they're designed for Australian fields, and the other non-name boots that we won't name for legal reasons.
I went on the ABC, you can name them.
Fucking Nike. I'm wearing Nike right now. You know, those type of boots are made for English fields, which are a lot different to the Australian sort of fields. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see the correlation between those type of important inputs into the test or into the study and the outcomes. So
What's about, James Tedesco will never wear screw-in studs because he's done his ACL too many times with the longer
who
studs.
wears screw-in studs?
Apparently, some NRL players still do.
My old man used to wear screw-in studs.
The
and I
big
always-
Gilbert ones?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
used to have them.
they'll rip off as well. Like you look at the boot and go, oh, hang on, I started with 9 and now I've only got 6. And then you'd have to, then they'll tear completely the threads.
I
And you'd
believe
have
that
to
happened in the 97 grand final. One was in Jeff Tuvey's head.
get- courtesy of Adam McDougall, a good friend of the show.
Good friend of the show.
Liam, better wrap up the sack. Are you gonna
Better
anything
wrap
else?
up the sack. That'll wrap up the sack for this week. Just a quick update on the lower grades. The Canterbury Cup had the bye round, but they will play the Dragons at Henson Park this Sunday. And Jersey Flag beat the Bulldogs 32-20, and they've got a bye for their next round.
Fantastic. Look, look, all good things must come to an end, and on this show,
Like my beer has.
just like look, it's so bloody good that
It
you've,
is.
that you've drunk all of
I
it.
drank the whole thing.
Butts, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We
Pleasure.
can't wait to have you again. How can people check out your special?
You can go to my website, but you don't have to. It's good though.
Also, you've got the another tour coming up internationally. If people are overseas, where can they might find you?
I'll be everywhere.
Website again?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Go on, you know where I am. Just
Yeah,
find me, for
just
fuck's sake.
You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all those social pipes. Did I forget one, Liam? I think I nailed that.
I think you nailed it.
I don't usually nail that.
If you go to YouTube
SoundCloud.
and put the letter I in, I'm the first one that comes up.
well,
So
there you go.
I fucking made it.
That's huge. Wow.
Yeah. You think maybe iPod or iPod? You think that I would be just something with Apple?
Yeah.
No, I'm bigger than that.
Isaac
Bigger-
Asimov.
Thank you very much, Isaac. Bigger than Apple Butts. Thank you for coming on.
Bigger than Apple.
Bigger than Apple Butts.
Bigger than Jesus. I'll take that.
He's wearing the sandals. Thanks very much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Liam, I'll see you again next week, I think.
I'll be here, mate.
Go the
Okay.
Knights.